Welcome everybody to Webinar Wednesdays, where we discuss remodeling best practices so you can avoid common mistakes and update your home with confidence. Today we're going to be talking about cabinet construction. On the other end of the line here with me is Dennis Gehman from Gehman Design and Remodel. Dennis, you're up in Pennsylvania, right?
That's correct. Yeah, we're just north of Philadelphia. It was sunny today until about a half an hour ago. Now it's clouding over.
Okay, but you guys are getting some spring weather?
Yeah.
I think that's going to happen with us today too.
Yeah, we're supposed to get a big storm down here.
Yeah, they're talking a lot of rain tomorrow.
Also on the line with me is Brianna Browning, our interior designer. Unfortunately, her camera's not working. You won't be able to see Brianna. And Christy Williams, our showroom manager, is also on with us. And for some reason, she doesn't want to show her face, so we can't see her either, but she can say hi.
My computer doesn't have my home computer does not have a video at the moment, so.
There you go, the wonders of technology. But we're all here to talk about cabinet construction today. Dennis is a bit of an expert. Dennis, tell everybody a little bit just about yourself and your work and how long you've been doing it and all that good stuff.
Oh, I've been doing it a long time. Graduated from high school in 1975 and started right into carpentry. We started our business in 1990. I have a good bit of experience with cabinets, cabinetry, furniture kind of thing. That was my dad's line of work. So that's kind of the end of the business where I started. We have a kitchen and bath showroom, but we do full service remodeling, interior and exterior. So room additions, finished basements, certainly kitchens and baths.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. I wish we had more basements down here. My house actually happens to have a basement because it was built on a hill.
Yeah, that's unusual.
Yeah, it's one of the few down here, but I love basements, man. So quiet down in the basement. All right, terrific. A little bit of housekeeping for everybody. We are taking questions, so if you're on the webinar and you have questions, just go ahead and type it in chat. You'll see the little chat button in the bottom of your screen. Make sure the to field says all panelists and attendees. Hit us up with a chat. We're monitoring the chat. We'll answer your question. If you'd like to speak, if it's a little more of a complicated question, just put in chat like I have a question, and we'll open up your mic and let you ask your question live. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna share my screen. All right, and today we got through housekeeping. Today we're talking about cabinet construction. Basically the gist today is when you go to a showroom or when you go looking for cabinets, what do you look for in quality cabinetry? Dennis and I and Brianna could probably talk about this for hours. There's so many small details that can make a difference between one cabinet and another. But we're going to kind of go over the broad strokes. We're lucky in that today manufacturing is so good. There's lots of good cabinetry out there. But you got to be careful because there's some not so good cabinetry out there too. So we're going to kind of give you guys some guidelines. As usual, we were going to start with a poll and now I lost my. Yep, as usual, we'll start with a little poll. If you guys can see the poll on your screen, it's just 3 questions. Asking if you're a homeowner, a contractor, or a designer. We tend to get all 3 on these calls. Let us know if this is your first webinar or your second or third or fourth or whatever it might be. And let me know if you're planning a remodel or so in the next 6 months. All right. Looks like almost everybody. Okay. Yeah, so we got a designer, some homeowners. It's a pretty typical mix. We got a couple people, this is their second or third webinar, so welcome back. And a couple people planning remodels, so great. Thank you, guys. Here's what we're going to talk about today. And Dennis has got anything, if you have anything to add, let me know, but I feel like these are the basic components of cabinet construction we want to go over. The box, that's just the actual cabinet box that the door is attached to. The doors and drawer fronts, certainly the most expensive part of cabinetry, and obviously the thing you see. Then the drawer box, also a very important component. the hardware, which Dennis, I would say hardware often overlooked as a quality component.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And then the finish. Again, I would say often overlooked. Sometimes you see a cabinet finish and it's brand new, it's pretty, and you can't see the layers of paint and you can't see the quality of the clear coat. So that's an area where it can be difficult for a homeowner to figure that out. But we'll give you some tips about how to judge a quality finish. All right, Dennis, I'm going to throw this one over to you. You're just a real expert in this, but walk us through the different components and different names of a cabinet here.
Yeah, well, this drawing really lays it out pretty nice, but essentially a cabinet is a box. And then to make things so it's a bit more organized, the industry includes doors and drawers, and there's a whole lot of things beyond that. But so you have the box, depending where the cabinet is in the run, you may or may not see any of the outside of that box. You know, if it's in the middle and surrounded by cabinets, the countertop on top of it. But certainly you want the quality there for durability. That's kind of the structure that holds everything together. As Paul mentioned earlier, the drawer front and the door, they're the pretty facade. When the cabinet is closed, that's what you look at and what you see. Some of the other things, the edge banding is really kind of the face of the box. And we'll talk about frameless versus framed cabinets in a little bit. Cabinets are going to have a floor, traditionally a base cabinet. The floor is roughly 4 to 5 inches off the floor. So you don't have to bend all the way down over. And part of that is also to allow a toe kick underneath when you're standing at the kitchen sink or at just a counter area slicing and dicing. You typically want to get up a little closer. So the standard in the industry is to give you about 3.5 inches of space for your toes to sort of fit underneath the bottom of the cabinet so you can stand a little closer.
Nice. Yeah. And the toe kick, correct me if I'm wrong, is one of the ways you can adjust the height of a cabinet fairly easily. If you want your cabinet a little taller, a little shorter, very easy to change that on site while installing just by raising that up and down a little bit.
That's exactly true. And one of the things that we didn't talk about, Paul, while we were preparing, but the toe kick is an area as far as Americans with disabilities, so accessible, people with a wheelchair.
Right.
Then you want to have an 8-inch high toe kick so that the footrest of the wheelchair can fit under there also.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. Yeah. Yeah, and you can do that with stock cabinetry where you don't,
Correct.
The counters are going to wind up being a little higher, or you can modify the cabinet to make the countertop height ADA compliant while still getting that tall toe kick.
Right.
Yeah, that's a real good tip. Awesome. Couple tiny things I like to point out. The bumper, all cabinet doors and drawers have bumpers. Sometimes they're very, very cheap. Sometimes they're nicer. It's one of those things you wouldn't really think about, but when bumpers wear out, it causes problems. So that's a little detail to pay attention to. And then obviously we talked about hinges and glides, but overall I think that was a good overview. All right. In general, we like to think of good, better, best options when it comes to cabinetry. Stock cabinets, we'll go over the definition of stock in a minute. We consider generally to be in the good category, semi-custom to be in a better category, and custom in the best category. That said, it's important to understand that there's also such a thing as a good stock cabinet, a better stock cabinet, and a best stock cabinet.
Yeah.
There are a good custom, a better custom, a best custom. Dennis and I were talking, preparing for this, and there are some custom, I'm going to use air quotes there, custom cabinets that I would take a stock cabinet over them any day of the week, right? There's some pretty poor custom cabinets out there. There's also furniture grade custom cabinets that are out of this world. So it's important to understand that each category also has its good, better, best. Okay. All right, let's dive into stock cabinetry. Dennis, you work with stock cabinet lines up in PA?
Yeah, we do. And yeah, I've been in this obviously over 4 decades, and the kind of the standard with the industry, even among semi-custom and custom, is that cabinets work in 3-inch increments. Stock, generally speaking, they're going to start at 9 inches wide. A few of them might offer 6-inch wide, but 9-inch, and then you go every 3 inches up to, depends on the manufacturer. Some go to 36, some 45, but and so, you know, when you measure your wall for layout, you work in 3-inch increments. And, you know, if you have 1 3/4 inches left over, then we, with stock cabinets, you put in a filler piece. It's a piece of wood that matches the cabinetry. But in generally speaking, we try to put that at the end of the run or at a turn in a corner so that it's not as noticeable.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we sell stock cabinets as well. Nothing wrong with them. Perfect, very appropriate for a lot of remodels. Dennis, you were saying you like to use them in basements and powder rooms, mud rooms. They're a lower cost cabinet.
Rentals.
Yeah, Brianna is saying for rentals. Yeah. Even in a nice home and a nice kitchen, nothing wrong with stock cabinetry. But there are some compromises that are made with stock cabinetry, and that you're going to lose a little bit of space because we got to use more fillers. You don't have as many door options. So like one of our stock cabinet lines, you know, we've got 12 or 15 door style options. In our semi-custom line, I think we have 98 door style options. So it's a little bit about variety. Same with colors. These are the colors sort of available in one of our stock cabinet lines. You know, it's 15 or 20 colors. Nothing wrong with that. But if you look at one of our semi-custom lines, you know, you're looking at, I don't know what that is, 60, 70 different options. So it kind of comes down to choices.
Yeah. And one of the other things, sometimes the door style you like is not available in the color you like.
That also does happen.
Right? You know, so you really got to work with it.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the ways stock cabinet companies keep the price down is by limiting the number of choices. By limiting options, they can mass produce parts and pieces, and of course that's less expensive. So not necessarily means the stock cabinet's less poor quality. It just means you have fewer options with a stock cabinet, right?
Right.
Yeah. And then as a caveat, there are some stock cabinets that I think are absolute junk, and so I wouldn't wish them on my worst enemy. However, there are good ones too. You know, when we'll talk about material construction and stuff in a bit and give you an idea of what to look for in stock cabinetry as well. It's not new. Dennis, you said you started working with RTA cabinets back in the 70s, but lately there's a new kind of stock cabinet that's become very, very popular. They're called RTA, or ready to assemble. RTA stands for ready to assemble. Most people are probably familiar with IKEA cabinets. IKEA cabinets have been around for a long, long time. Those are RTA. They come flat packed. IKEA might even launch the whole idea. I don't know. They've been doing it for a long time.
They may have.
Yeah.
Probably. They're like flat pack everything.
Yeah, they flat pack a house for you if you want
Yeah.
to. I would consider IKEA one of the higher quality RTAs out there. I like IKEA cabinets. We don't install them, but they're certainly a good choice.
Yeah.
Most of your RTA cabinets are imports. They used to call them Chinese RTA cabinets. They all used to come from China. Then we slapped some tariffs on China, and all the manufacturers moved to Vietnam and other places to avoid the tariffs. But they're mostly imports. They call them RTA. They come flat packed. They arrive to the warehouse or to your home. You assemble them before you can install them, just like an IKEA cabinet. I'm not a huge fan. In general, I find the RTA cabinets lower quality. You know, there are stock cabinets out there that are same price point that are higher quality, so I would prefer to do that. But there are one or two RTAs that I kind of am a fan of. So it's a mixed bag. Do you guys use RTAs at all up your way, Dennis?
We don't. They're certainly around. I know, you know, that they're being used. I think it's, at least in our area, it's predominantly in the do-it-yourself market.
Right.
It's an excellent way for a homeowner to put in some sweat equity and get new cabinets at a decent price point.
Yeah, there's definitely some good points. One nice thing, if you're having an RTA, if you have cabinets shipped to your garage, they're going to fill your garage until you put them in. They take up an enormous amount of space.
Yeah.
RTA cabinets come flat packed. You can stack them all in a corner, and then you take them apart and build them as you go. So there's some advantages. A lot of builders I know around here use RTA cabinets because they're a stock cabinet, their warehouse. There's tens of thousands of square feet of warehouses in places like Atlanta and Tampa down here, just filled with RTA cabinets. They don't require anyone to have a showroom; they just ship directly to you. So without that showroom requirement, a lot of builders like them because they can get them quick and they don't have to have a showroom. I think the downside to that is now you're not working with a design professional to help you make your choices, and I think there's some problems with that as well. Okay. Another point to bring up when we talk about the difference between stock, semi-custom, and custom, we're going to keep bringing this up. It comes down to choices. There's quality options in each category, but you've got more color choices, more door style choices. You also have just more cabinet choices in semi-custom and custom than you do in stock. So Dennis was mentioning earlier, stock cabinets might start at around 9 inches. A semi-custom cabinet, you could probably get a 6-inch or a 3-inch pull out, more choices. A stock cabinet might only have one type of tall cabinet like this to choose from. A semi-custom is going to have, 6 or 10 or 12. So it comes down to those kinds of choices as well in the type of cabinet you have available to you. And then of course you got custom where they just build whatever you want. So when a lot of times we're thinking price point on cabinets, it comes down to just, choices that you have is a big factor, as well as the quality construction. All right, semi-custom. Dennis, what do you think of semi-custom cabinets?
It's what we use predominantly. Probably 85% of the cabinets we install are semi-custom. A couple of reasons for that: a lot more choices as far as door styles and finishes. And as this first bullet point says, increments in sizing. They still start, with a catalog of cabinets in 3-inch increments. And so, let's say you need a cabinet that's 17¼ inches. You're going to pay for an 18-inch cabinet, but then tell them to reduce it by 3/4 of an inch. So it doesn't add a crazy amount of money to it. And just it's the options that's a big deal. The cabinet company, which is Centra, is the semi-custom company we work with, and any Benjamin Moore or Sherwin-Williams paint color you want at no upcharge.
Oh, that's
for
nice.
Most people, that's way too many to choose from.
Right. Yeah, that's a big book.
Yeah. It just becomes overwhelming.
Yeah, but it can be nice to have that kind of flexibility, but yeah, it can also be really overwhelming.
Yeah. And I would say that the advantage there, especially when you're working with a professional designer who really knows the colors.
Right.
And, at any project, once it comes to the colors, the hardest decision is making that first one. Once you pick one color, then you can marry everything else around it.
Yep.
And when you keep saying, oh, but they're all so pretty, and you're never going to get anywhere.
Okay.
You got to make one decision and then you work with it.
Yeah, pick a focal point and then work around it, or pick maybe 2 focal points and start to work around them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we're like you. We do mostly semi-custom. For me, it's the sweet spot of cost and value. I think there is a ton of value in a semi-custom cabinet for the vast majority of people. Mm-hmm. And that 1/4 inch sizing at no additional cost is great for the designer. It gives you a lot of flexibility. Sure. Again, semi-custom, here's just an example of some of the unique cabinets you might get when you move up to a semi-custom line that might not be available in a stock line. Mm-hmm. These kind of unique organizers. This corner drawer, we don't use a lot, but it can be a lifesaver in the right circumstance.
Yes.
So that sort of cabinet, those cabinet options are a huge benefit to semi-custom. Same, here's a couple more. These lift-up doors, which we love. These sort of pull-outs. There's another tall pull-out option. These kinds of choices are great to have in a semi-custom line that you just might not find in stock cabinetry.
Yeah. We fairly often have people who they start off saying that they're price conscious, they want to stick with a stock cabinet, which we're perfectly fine with. And then they realize that, oh, they don't offer the pull out or the turnstile, the base in the blind corner. But they're aware that they are available aftermarket, which they are, and we can buy them and install them. But pretty soon it becomes more expensive than if we just started with a semi-custom to begin with.
Yeah, we see that a lot too. We do cabinet refacing as one of our services. We see that a lot with refacing. Refacing can be really economical, but then you start modifying cabinets and adding drawers and and pretty soon it's cheaper to do new cabinetry.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah, that's an important thing to keep in mind. All right, custom cabinetry. Brianna, you used to design custom cabinetry for a number of years. What do you think?
Custom cabinetry is great. There are unlimited options. Anything you want, they can make for the most part.
Yeah.
Definitely not economical. Very high level of finish, form, and function, but also a high cost.
Yeah. Couple things I like to point out with custom. Certainly a good custom cabinet builder, fantastic fit, form, and finish. You do want to work with a designer to help you design because they don't come in these standard sizes. You want to work with a designer who understands cabinet design. But you're looking at a much longer turnaround time. So we didn't really talk about that, but if we go up to stock cabinetry, because they're stock, because they're warehoused, you can get stock cabinets in 1 to 4 weeks delivered to your door. With our semi-custom cabinets, you're looking at more like 6 to 8 weeks, so a little bit longer, because semi-custom cabinets are built to order. They're not sitting in a warehouse somewhere. We order them, and then they start manufacturing them. Custom cabinets, even longer, 8 weeks, 6 to 16 weeks. I'd say 12 weeks, pretty common lead time around here for custom cabinets.
Yes.
And then they do tend to be quite a bit more expensive, but you get whatever you want, to a high degree of personalization, which is nice.
I think semi-custom for those reasons is like really great for remodels, just because you don't want to go 16, 12 weeks without a kitchen when you're remodeling.
Right. Who wants to wait 4 months for their cabinets?
If you were building a home and like had a year, it might be a good option.
Could make more sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the other things with custom, and Paul, you mentioned a little bit about this before, it's more like a piece of furniture.
That's right.
And they're not thought of as in modules, which stock cabinets are modular, and semi-custom almost thought that way. Like the picture we're seeing here on the screen with a drawer base and then a sink base. A custom cabinet shop may make that all as one piece, so you don't even have a seam, in between there.
Yeah, you can see the faint seam right here where these are two separate cabinets. Yeah, but a custom shop might just build that as one big 6 feet cabinet, and you wouldn't have that. Yeah, exactly. I love custom cabinets. My only caveat for people shopping for custom cabinets is pay attention to how they're finished. That's the biggest flaw I see in a lot of custom shops is the carpentry, the level of craftsmanship in building the cabinet is fantastic. The finish quality, not very good. That's just for me, I see that all the time. Not that there aren't custom shops that do a great job at finishing, but that's one of the things to look out for if you're paying that extra amount of money for custom cabinets.
Yeah, I've never worked with it, but I've seen before custom cabinets that get installed and then painted or stained in the field.
Right, which is crazy.
I think is crazy, yeah.
Yeah, you see, you say that up here a lot. They make the cabinet, they install it, and then a painter comes in literally in the house and paints it.
Yeah.
As a homeowner who doesn't have a lot of experience with cabinetry, that might seem like, well, what's the big deal? But as a professional who's been, selling cabinets for years and years, that's horrifying. Especially when you're spending as much money as you might on custom cabinetry.
yeah, there's just no way you can get the quality of the finish in the field that you can under controlled conditions. With the better finishes being spray applied and then maybe UV light or heat an oven to really bake it.
That's right.
And just multiple coats.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to give people an idea of so I would say the gold standard of durable finishes these days is what Dennis was just talking about. It's a UV catalyzed finish. So it's a lacquer they spray on the cabinet with you got to imagine it's a super high quality flat line spray system. I mean, these things cost, millions of dollars. Then it's passed through UV light and it catalyzes and hardens that finish. Difficult for custom shops to do that. Some do a very, very good job. But so it can be one of the downsides. Just something to pay attention to when you're shopping around for custom. Okay. All right, so we talked about stock cabinetry, semi-custom. Anybody have any questions about that? I haven't been paying attention to our chat window here like I should. Hey, where's our chat window?
It's down there, Paul, but we're all good. I don't see any questions as of now.
I see it. It popped up. Oh. All right, let me know if anything pops up. If you guys got any questions, let us know. All right, framed versus frameless. I mean, Dennis, you're up in Pennsylvania. You say you do a lot of framed, which makes sense.
Yeah.
For that area of the country, it's very traditional. North Florida down here, also very traditional. We happen to specialize in frameless cabinets. That's our thing. We like them better. But let's talk about the difference between framed and frameless.
So they both have a box.
That's right, they do.
That's where it starts.
Very smart, Dennis.
Yeah, with a frameless, the box, you then put a door and a drawer on front of it. Typically, a frameless cabinet, maybe the side panels and the floor and the top are made out of a little bit thicker material, so you have the durability. One of the things that is important with any box, you want to be able to keep it from racking,
Right.
if there's pressure that comes against it. I don't know, I think when cabinets and furniture were first made, that they had face frames. Typically, in a custom shop where I've worked at, you build the face frame first and then the box to fit it.
Gotcha.
I think a lot of times these days the box is built and then it goes from there.
Right.
So these pictures explain it really well. That there's a face frame. Typically, it's about 1.5 inches wide. It's 3/4 inch thick of solid wood that gets applied to the front of the box. And there's different ways of applying it. It could be a dowel joint. It could be a rabbet, a dado, a mortise. But you want to make sure that is on there good and secure, because that's what the door is going to hinge on. And so if the door is hinging on the face frame, but the face frame comes loose from the box, you still lost it.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So just for people, this is a frameless cabinet. Just to be clear, this is a framed cabinet. You can see before the door or frame goes on, they're the same. They're both boxes. They both have drawers. They're built pretty close to identically. The difference is the framed cabinet has a face frame put on. The frameless cabinet doesn't. Instead, what they do, and Dennis mentioned this earlier, they would edge band the edge of that box so that it has a finished edge. With the frame cabinet, the frame is providing your finished edge. So framed versus frameless. So who cares? Why do we care if we have framed or frameless? Well, there's a few reasons you might choose one or the other. One of the reasons we like frameless is without that frame, you actually get more storage, you get more access to the cabinet. So for example, on the right here is a framed cabinet. You can see the red frame, it reduces the opening size. And so you've got this sort of skinnier drawer box. The frameless cabinet to the left, there's no frame. So you get a taller and a wider drawer box out of it. So I'd say that's number one for me, why I like frameless better. Then the rest of the frameless, it kind of comes down to aesthetics. And you can argue all day long about aesthetics, what looks better, framed or frameless.
Yeah.
Not as much difference these days because most framed cabinets now are full overlay, which looks pretty similar to a frameless cabinet. Brianna's favorite, and we talked about this last week, are inset cabinets, which are gorgeous, but the only way really to do an inset cabinet is you have to start with a framed cabinet.
Yeah.
This is sort of our classic framed versus frameless example. This right here, this gray drawer that you see, that came out of a framed cabinet in our showroom. It came out of a 15-inch wide framed cabinet, and we've set it inside a 15-inch wide frameless cabinet. So you can see how much more room you're getting with that frameless drawer, that drawer in a frameless cabinet versus the drawer in a framed cabinet.
It might look small there, but that adds up in a space like a 10-foot long run.
Yeah, yeah. If you're
of
doing
drawers.
a vanity with 2 cabinets, not a big deal. If you're doing a kitchen with 30 cabinets, it can add up.
Yeah,
It can add up real
easily.
quick. Another advantage, Christy likes to call this little piece of the frame right here in her drawer the spatula catcher. And I'm sure we've all had the experience of
That's true.
trying to open a drawer, there's something caught, and then
It's the worst.
yeah, that's the worst. It actually just happened to me. I have a workshop at home, and I have a toolbox. Just happened to a toolbox, and I'm jiggling this thing trying to get it off. I literally ripped it right off right out of the box, and I was so upset. I just threw it in the corner, and I went back inside. Still sitting there. I got to take care of it. But with frameless cabinetry, there's no frame, so there's no spatula catcher, right? That's a smooth top right there. Again, although I did want to go back, Dennis, to your point, you can see on this construction, Dennis talked about preventing racking. With a framed cabinet, the frame plays an important role in preventing that racking. It strengthens that cabinet box. Another way to do it are with these cleats that they've strapped across the top that reinforces the box. These little corner pieces reinforce the box. So there are a few different ways to do it. Our cabinet company, Belmont, they just do solid tops. So all of their frameless cabinets are a complete solid top. So there's no spatula catcher at all. You can just barely see this cabinet in our showroom to the left of that Belmont cabinet. Has that cleat. That still does create a little bit of a spatula catcher. So it's not like frameless cabinets are all the same. You can still have that spatula catcher a little bit. Another picture of a frameless cabinet here. Again, you can see the edge banded front. Again, just wider boxes, wider drawers, wider openings is kind of why we like them. This is a picture of 4 drawer boxes coming together down here on the left. Frameless cabinetry, the standard is 1/8 of an inch spacing between everything. Whereas if you look at a framed cabinet, this is a full overlay framed cabinet. The picture's a little crooked, so it's making it look uneven, but I think that's just the picture. Still nice, still tight. You're probably looking at more of a 1/4 inch spacing in between. And then to the left here, this is kind of old school. You don't see this a lot anymore. This would be a half overlay door.
Run away if you
And you can see a lot of space in between. I would guess, Dennis, down here, 70% of the kitchens, if they're 10 years older or more, that down here, this is what they've got. These half overlay framed cabinets. Very popular. If your kitchen's 10, 15 or more years old, that's what we see.
Yeah, I would say for around here, it's probably more like 15 or older.
Or older, yeah, but very, very, very common back in the day. I wish we had you on and maybe we'll have to do another one and bring you back on to talk about history of cabinetry. Last week we talked about a little bit about the history of cabinetry, how they used to be site built, and then you could order them, but only by the truckload. And then then you could order them by the kitchen. It's super interesting how cabinets have just sort of evolved over time like that. And you can see how these spaces, if you're site building cabinets, having this kind of wiggle room is nice.
That's right.
When you move to a workshop or factory manufacturing, the tolerances get tighter. Anyway, a little bit of a segue there, but the history of cabinetry is kind of fascinating. Again, here framed in red here, you can kind of see the frame and you can kind of see how the door overlays it. An important distinction are as hinges. The hinges to a frame on a frame cabinet attach a little bit differently. We've got, these are soft close hinges here, but they attach, like Dennis said, to the frame. Do we have a picture of a frameless cabinet?
Of the hinge,
I don't think we, of the
Go down.
hinge, I'm
Go
not
down
sure we
one.
do. Go down?
right there. There it is.
Yeah, so here you can see frameless cabinet, the hinge attaches to the side of the box. It's a different style hinge. I don't know there's a pro and con to that. They're just different style. Dennis, you got any thoughts on that?
You're right. It's a different style, but when it's the framed, then the hinge always sticks in a little bit farther. So now you have the thickness of the frame plus the hinge. So you have that much less space as far as getting a big pot or a pitcher
right.
or something in and out.
A little less click, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, they've improved that. There again, 12, 15 years ago, that was a real big knuckle.
Yeah,
that hung on the side there.
Yeah, but I would say minor issue today.
Yeah.
When you're looking at framed versus frameless.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned the soft close on that hinge, and that, you know, that's kind of become a standard anymore. So there was maybe 6, 8 years ago, it was hit or miss as to whether they were soft close, and so that was one of the telltales of a better cabinet. You know, if they spent the money for the extra hinge, but everybody's doing that.
Yeah.
And not all, but the majority are using hardware that has a lifetime warranty. You know, and so if there's an issue, you give a call back. But thankfully, there really aren't. And they now have 6-way adjustable hinges. So it's in and out and up and down and left and right. And that becomes real important. The closer the tolerances are, like on this picture with the drawer fronts of the 1/8 inch, you know, if you're off just a little bit, you're going to pick that up really,
that's right,
really quickly. So it's important to have that adjustment.
Yeah, I wish we should have got a close-up picture of that. But if you, on this hinge, just with a screwdriver, there are 3 little screws on that hinge that allow you to move that door left, right, up, down, and in, out, which is fantastic for an installer. You know, you install all the cabinets and then you go around and you can tweak everything so that it's perfect. And then even over time, eventually doors are going to sag a little over time. Things are going to change. Houses move, shift a little. You can go in and it's very easy to tweak those.
Yeah.
Another thing I was going to point out with these modern hinges too is that door, you can remove it with just push 2 little buttons, and those hinges snap off, and you pull that whole door off. Which, as a homeowner, you might not think you need to do that a lot, but if you ever need to clean that cabinet or touch up that door or any other reason, that door comes off super, super easy, which is nice. Same with drawers now, very easy, just a couple little buttons and pop, they come right off.
No tools needed.
No tools needed. Yeah, we like that.
It's interesting. I remember early on as a young man learning the trade, and when you're installing a kitchen, typically we take off all the doors and drawer fronts and we're getting all the boxes in place, and then you come in and finish up. And one of the last things is lining those all up so that everything looks nice and even. Before they had hinges that were adjustable, you had to do a lot of shimming.
Yeah.
Like we didn't ever throw cardboard from a cereal box away.
Right.
That went in the truck. You'd cut those with your knife so you could put it behind the shims and get things lined up.
Yeah, it was that thick, dense cardboard that worked really well for shims. Yeah. Yeah, you're 100% right there. Another good picture of full overlay here on the right, and then same exact door style, but with half overlay. And you can see the space exists in between. Now, again, is that terrible? No. It's a different look. I like the clean look of the full overlay. Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with these cabinets on the left, though. They work just as well. Even the space is the same. This cabinet's built on the left is built the same. the frame's the same, the amount of space is the same. The only difference is the doors are bigger on the right cabinets than on the left, so they cover more of that box.
Right.
And then we've got Inset. Again, we're back to Brianna's favorite.
Yeah.
A lot of designers like Inset, and Inset's a beautiful cabinet. As a very practical man, though, I just can't get over all that wasted space.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely have to have a lot of space. A big kitchen is where it's best.
But also an expensive way to build a
Yeah.
cabinet. Tolerances are very tight. It's definitely a more expensive look. Although, Dennis, you were mentioning you work with some companies that are doing Inset, very nice Inset at a lower cost now.
Yeah, it's the same cost as full overlay.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty new. Again, as manufacturing gets better and better, it gets easier and easier to do these, what
Yeah.
used to be considered real high-end things.
Yep.
One thing about hinges with this style is a lot of times it's the barrel hinges.
Yeah, a lot of times you
Which
won't
are
get
really-
soft close on Inset because they use these barrel hinges.
Yeah.
A lot of soft close hinges, I don't know if they just have a little too much slop in them to work for Inset, or if they just don't work because of the way the hinges mount. But yeah, usually using barrel hinges on Inset cabinets.
Yeah, we go both ways with them. I really tell the homeowner it's an aesthetic choice. Do you want to see that or not?
Yeah, they even make you can do a hidden soft close hinge, and they make a fake barrel.
Yes. Yep.
That you can
Oh,
put
yeah.
on, so you get because barrel hinges aren't soft close, but
Yeah.
you get the soft close hinge, and then you put on this decorative barrel, so you still have the
Yeah.
classic barrel look.
But and the otherwise, if you have barrel hinges, they make a soft close plunger that you can mount. So yeah, you could slam the door, but it's going to stop at like 3-4 inches out. So you don't get the satisfaction of hearing the door slam.
You don't hear that, right? Yeah, you can't slam anything these days.
Yeah.
You can't slam a toilet seat, can't slam a door, you can't do anything. What do you do if you're mad?
Maybe it's going to do away with our tempers.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, and I would imagine up in your area, if you're doing historic renovations or trying to restore, trying to remodel to a certain period, I mean, Inset cabinets are, that's kind of where they're at.
Correct.
Yeah. So, but, all right, get down to the nitty gritty here. Box construction. Oh, you know what? You reminded me of something, Dennis, before we move on to that, because you made a very, a point I want to highlight. You talked about how soft close hinges used to be the sign of a quality cabinet because they only higher quality manufacturers would use them.
Yeah.
It used to be that a dovetailed drawer box was a sign of a quality cabinet because only better manufacturers would use them. As manufacturing processes have improved and the cost has come down on those things, now we're starting to see them everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an important point if you're shopping for cabinets. Don't get fooled into thinking it's a quality cabinet because it has soft close or just because it has dovetailed drawers.
Yeah.
Those things are everywhere. Those things are in the cheapest cabinets, and those things are in the highest quality cabinets. There are subtle differences, the fit, form, and finish, as I like to call it, between the better quality and the low quality are definitely different. It takes a bit of a practiced eye to see that sometimes. But don't let someone fool you into saying, oh yeah, it's a great cabinet. Look, it's soft close. That's not what makes it a quality cabinet anymore. That's a ubiquitous trait.
Yeah.
There are some other things that make a cabinet better or worse. Would you agree with that?
I would. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of, I hate to keep slamming RTAs, but I feel like there's a lot of RTAs out there that sell on these points of, oh, it's all wood, it's soft close, it's dovetailed. Yes, that's all true, but they're all the lowest quality versions of all those things. And I feel like they're doing a little disservice to homeowners who, don't know better, and they're buying something that they think is quality when it's really not. I'm fine with you buying an RTA cabinet if you know what you're getting. If you're informed, you say, yep, I know what that is. Like, I'll go buy a Kia, and I know what I'm getting. I know I'm not getting a BMW. That's fine, and I'm paying that price point. I don't want you going and buying an RTA cabinet thinking you're getting a higher quality cabinet. So that's really my point when it comes to that stuff. Anyway, that's my soapbox for for the hour.
I think
That's,
it's coming up.
yeah, it might be coming. I might hear it again. It's coming up again later, but it's just one of my biggest pet peeves, because people, when, you'll invest $10,000 in cabinetry thinking it's quality cabinetry, and it's not. And 4 or 5 years, you don't know until 4 or 5 years later. And unfortunately, it's too late. So that's a huge pet peeve of mine. A big pet peeve of mine with builders who insist on putting in lower quality cabinets in their homes because they know they'll look pretty for a year or two, and that's all they need to get that home sold. They're doing a huge disservice to everybody. And they're only saving 1% of the cost of the home. I mean, I don't think it's not that big of a deal to step up to better quality cabinetry. So it's just,
that fits along with my mantra that every time they build a new house, it's future work for those of us who do remodeling.
Right?
yeah.
Yes.
In a way, I shouldn't complain because it's job security, but at the same time, I feel terrible for
For the
homeowners paying a
homeowners.
premium for homes with these poor quality.
Yeah.
And they put stone countertops on top, and
That's right. Yeah.
Seldom can you reuse the countertop.
That's it. Yeah. So you're spending $7,000-8,000 on counters, and you're putting them on top of $3,000 or $4,000 worth of cabinets.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. When those cabinets go bad, you got to throw away those countertops.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's Paul's soapbox moment. Cabinet box construction. Tell us about box construction, the different options and pros and cons, Dennis.
Yeah, so there's material as well as what would you call it, craftsmanship in how it's put together. And kind of the two main lines are particle board versus plywood. And most people right off the bat would say that plywood is better. I'd say not always. And just like in cabinets, there's good, better, best. There's good, better, best within particle board and within plywood. The particle board has to do with the weight of it and how smooth it is, how that's put together. Plywood, it can be the number of layers of veneer. Is it softwood or hardwood that's used for the veneer? There are some ways of putting these plywood together where you don't have any voids. If there was a knot hole in the veneer, they make sure that gets filled in. If you don't do that, sometimes you can get away with it, but it's certainly a weak point in it. And sometimes it shows through the finish veneer, maybe not right away, but after a couple years, you can start to see that shape showing through the finish.
Yeah.
And so, well, here in this one, just in the plywood, the soft versus hardwood, most everybody is familiar that some trees are considered softwood, others are hardwood, and there's density charts that you can look up if you decide to Google that. And so, and finishes take better or worse depending on the substrate that it's put on as well. Plywood is typically less weight than particle board or than MDF, which we didn't get into. MDF is medium density fiber board. And in layman's terms, both of those are sawdust and glue, that you put together. MDF is smaller sawdust than what particle board is. And you definitely know it when you pick up that there's no pores left in there, and pores in wood equate to air, and so air doesn't weigh anything when you don't have that. The fastening capabilities, and that is greatly improved, and some of that is the manufacturing of the particle board, but it's also the screw manufacturers and realizing that you need a deeper thread so that it's going to hold on better.
Those particle boards are pretty beefy.
Yeah, inexpensive particle board is not very strong. You can soon break it. A piece could chip off. Most people have the idea, and I know there's a slide coming up about moisture with it. And I tell people that most of the time you aren't going to have a moisture issue, maybe in your sink-based cabinet, but you shouldn't really have it there either. Something's wrong with the plumbing if you keep having moisture issues there. And in the bathroom, if you get water that's running out of the shower or the tub that's getting all the way over to the vanity, you're going to have other issues there too. But this is a great test that Paul and his team do to take plywood, which you can see on the left standing up, and versus particle board in 24 hours. And I'm pretty sure it was red colored water, so you could see a little extra dramatic, but the plywood is delaminated. So it comes down to the hardness of the wood as well as the quality of the glue that's put into it.
Yeah, this is another way I feel like some of the lower quality cabinet companies will try and fool a consumer by saying, oh, it's an all plywood box, and a lot of people see that as quality, but it's a 3-ply softwood plywood that twists and warps easily. You know, it's junk. Versus a semi-custom or custom cabinet made out of 7-ply, 0 void, high quality cabinet grade plywood. Totally different product.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Even if you go to Home Depot, go to Home Depot, walk down the plywood aisle, you're going to see 6 or 7 different kinds of plywood, different levels of quality and veneer and thickness. Same thing with cabinetry. So it's just not all black and white. We actually do prefer our cabinets. I'm sure yours do too. You have both options. You can do a particle board construction. You can do a plywood construction. Plywood construction costs, for us, for Belmont, it costs, I think, 10 or 15% more to do the plywood. I prefer the particle board because we've done the tests and we like the way it works. It's more dimensionally stable. For a frameless cabinet, it works real well. Our installers don't like it because it's heavy.
Yeah.
And they have to lift those cabinets around. So, but aside from that, we're pretty big fans of the particle board. And it does kind of come down to, there's 2 kinds of particle board, and Dennis alluded to it. Most people are familiar with what's called 15-pound particle board. So that's kind of your IKEA furniture, your Walmart furniture. When we're talking furniture board or cabinet quality particle board, it's 55 pounds. That's the density. A cubic foot of it weighs 55 pounds versus 15 pounds for the lower quality stuff. It's just a big difference, different product.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's a quick rundown of your box construction. I mean, box construction is tough because you need a lot of experience to really see these differences.
Yeah, maybe back up a picture or two. It shows that corner and how the back of the cabinet here, what you're seeing kind of on the top right is, I believe, the side of the cabinet and then the rail across the back. But the full back, it looks like this is a 1/4-inch MDF that is rabbited or dadoed into the side panel. And then, I'm sure that the horizontal rail on the top and the bottom are either biscuit jointed or mitered or doweled into the side panel, unless it's not a finished end, then they could put some screws in through there. And this is probably a Belmont because I can see that has the full top, which you mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, those details are hidden for the most part to the eye.
Right.
So it can be difficult to tell. So it really kind of comes down to trust and working with a dealer or a designer or a supplier who can give you the real scoop on how these things are.
Any of the reputable manufacturers are going to have details about this on their website.
That's right.
It might not be right out there in plain pictures initially, but if you dig a little bit or if you ask, it's going to be there. It's going to tell you how many plies are in the plywood panel. It's going to tell you the density of the particle board. Are they using rabbited, joints for the sides and the back? Is it a mitered corner on the finished end to the face frame?
Yeah, important. That's good. You're very good point. Just ask, and your cabinet supplier should be able to provide that information to you. All right, so moving on to the fun stuff. This is what we like to talk about when we talk about cabinets. Door style.
The pretty parts.
So, yeah, the pretty part. The part that we all care about the most because it's what we get to see and use every day.
Yeah.
Quick tutorial on door styles. basically 3 types of doors, right? And then there's some subtle differences in other types. But this one right here on the far left, raised panel door. So it's got this raised panel in the middle. Right next door, recessed panel. Got a recessed panel in the middle. Classic recessed panel door, everyone knows, shaker, right? Crazy popular right now. Shaker door is a type of recessed panel door. Most cabinets, if they're, older homes, you see a lot of raised panels. It's a really great way to build a door. Strong, doesn't twist or warp. But more popular today is this recessed panel. And then you've got slab, single slab, one smooth door. So those are your 3 basic styles.
Yeah.
Door.
And the whole panel thing started, you talked about history a little bit ago, started years ago because a wide board is going to warp and it's going to cup or it's going to twist. And so these panels that you have a frame around the outside, and then that panel is actually floating in there so that as wood expands and contracts, it has space to move.
Yeah,
years ago, they did the raised panel because they didn't have the technology figured out how to do it real thin and still keep the board from falling apart.
That's right. Yeah, we get clients asking all the time, or they'll tell us all the time, like, "Oh, I just want a solid wood cabinet." And I'm like, "Well, you don't though, because if I make a cabinet box out of solid wood, in 6 months, especially here in Florida, it's going to split and twist and crack. Like, you want it to be plywood or furniture board because it's dimensionally stable. Same with doors. You don't see one piece 12-inch wide solid wood doors because they'll twist and warp and split. Right. These doors, when we talk about door construction, even this smooth drawer front, that is actually 3 pieces of wood that are laid up together, glued together. That gives it more dimensional stability. But you can see very clearly down here, this door is 5 pieces, and it's commonly called a 5-piece door. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the panel is 5. So that they all have kind of specialized joints in the corners here. Same with this one over here, that allow that door to without twisting or splitting. This frame construction here is called mitered because it has all these mitered corners. Brianna's favorite style, the mitered.
Yeah, I don't know about favorite.
The mitered. Oh, no, you don't know? I thought you
yeah,
were more confident
but I
earlier.
prefer it over the Copen rail.
Okay. This door up here actually is also a mitered door.
Yeah, like it looks better there.
Harder to see, You'll notice on this door, this is called the stile, this vertical piece, these 2 vertical pieces. This is called the rail. The stiles and rails on this one are kind of skinny. They're probably 2 1/4 inches, maybe 2 inches. You'll see the stile and rail on this one down here are thick, maybe 3 inches, 3.5 inches. Different look. Both are recessed panel doors. Both are made from wood, but a very different look by adjusting the thickness of the rail. Plus, you've got this chamfer on this one. To the left here, so this is a mitered door. To the right is what's called a Copen rail. So instead of a miter joint in the corner, this has a vertical joint right here, and then down here, and down here. So same 5-panel door, but this joint is called a Copen rail joint. It's a very specialized joint used in cabinetry. But it locks these corners together, but yet still allows some movement with that floating panel. And then this is the door on the far right. This is a door we don't see very much. It's a louvered door. Here in Florida, you'll see it at the beach. It's very popular in Hawaii and like islands, tropical place down in the Bahamas. It's a ventilated door. It allows the cabinet to breathe. So in a really hot environment without with not too much air conditioning, those louvered, those breathable cabinets are important. But it's also a cool look. If you like the Tommy Bahama thing, it's a cool look.
The flat panels in the center there, they can be made a few different ways. Probably most common these days is it's 1/4-inch plywood with the finish veneer on so that it matches. Or it could be MDF. But years ago when they wanted that look, it was a reversed raised panel. So when you opened the door and looked at the inside, the raised panel was on the inside.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you still see that today.
Yeah.
And that's for me, that's a sign of a quality
Yeah.
cabinet.
I agree.
A reverse raised panel, that's an expensive way to do a recessed panel door.
Yeah.
But because it's got that thicker, a raised panel is 3/4 of an inch thick. A recessed panel is 1/4 inch thick.
Right.
When you reverse it to get that smooth panel on the front and still have that 3/4 inch thick center panel, it makes a stronger door.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really kind of getting down to the weeds.
Yeah. The slab door, which Paul talked about a little bit, that's just basically flat. I would say 99% of the time these days it's MDF or plywood and the finished veneer or laminate put over top.
Right. Yeah, these doors are furniture board with the laminate over the top of them. We're going to talk about door construction a little bit down the road. Well, here we go. Right now, right? Not a little bit down the road. Next slide. What are doors made out of? Furniture board, MDF, plywood, and solid wood. Finishes. I'm going to skip over that real quick. We'll come back to it. I kind of want to scoot to the end here to get through the presentation, and we'll kind of come back and revisit some points. So that's what doors can be made out of. Finishes is also a really important part of a door. Hard to see, hard to understand the quality of a finish just by looking at it. You really need to ask about those specs and talk to your supplier. But painted finishes, or what we might call solid color finishes, very popular today. Few things you can do with a painted finish to make it look different, right? You can do solid color like this white. You can do a glaze like this taupe put on this white door. You can distress them, which this blue corn is a gray door actually with a two-step glaze put over it, and then they sand out the finish. And then if you're doing distressing, you can do different levels of distressing. So very light distressing up top, a little bit more in the middle, and then a ton down here at the bottom. This thing looks like it got bounced around the back of a truck for a couple of weeks. So paints, really popular today. Stains, not as popular, but still around, and certainly people are choosing them. I like stain finishes personally. I like the warmth of them. An important thing about stains is the wood species that you're staining can make a really big difference. So in this particular case, we've got alder, maple, walnut, and oak, all stained with the exact same stain, all dramatically different colors, different feel, different look, because they're different wood species. Different grain pattern to them, you name it. So with painted finishes, you don't see the grain, so it doesn't really matter. Most painted doors are alder or maple. It's a good wood. It's a stable wood, but it's less costly. It's a more commonly used wood because you're painting over it and you don't get to see it anyway.
Yeah, and it's smooth. Whereas if you paint oak or hickory, for instance, you're still going to see that grain mirroring through it.
That's a really good point. Oak has a really deep grain that is very, very difficult to hide.
And it's very porous.
Yeah, extremely. Yeah.
And some people want that look. Not real often, but
yeah. We have a couple samples in our showroom. It's getting real popular. It's an oak with a solid body stain on it. Are you seeing that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's become a real popular thing lately. It reminds me a little bit of the pickled oak from the 80s.
Yeah.
But it's a cool look, a little bit of French country vibe to it. We're getting a couple people choosing that in here. So most people are probably familiar with paints and stains. They've been around for a long, long time. What is more and more popular these days, and again, because of technology getting better and better, are laminate doors. We're big fans of them here. They do tend to skew contemporary because you're using a slab door style. So you're probably not going to do a traditional kitchen with a laminate door. But they're dimensionally very stable. They're very durable, very easy to clean. They've got a lot of advantages, and they tend to be less expensive. So we're big fans of the laminate doors down here. Are you using much of them up there, Dennis?
No, we'll do 1 or 2 a year.
I gotcha.
Yeah,
we're seeing more and more people choose them down here. Not only because of the unique look, but also the ease of care.
So am I seeing this correct? The wall cabinets there, those are inset doors on a frameless cabinet?
Oh, here?
Yeah.
No, this is something fun you can do with Frameless. It's actually what we prefer to do. It just is a little more expensive. That's an applied panel
All right.
on the
Okay.
left and right, and it's flush with the door.
Yeah.
So it gives it that inset look
Sure.
without doing an inset cabinet.
Okay.
That's my absolute favorite way to design with Frameless is to use panels,
Uh-huh.
because those little shadow lines, I just think really pretty.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are actually just applied.
I really like this kitchen.
Yeah, this is a cool kitchen.
Yeah.
This actually is a European cabinet with this rail system that's very, very cool. See there's no poles. They have these recessed rails,
Yeah.
and you just reach in, open the drawers. It's the Belmont's Vero line, actually. All right, so there's a quick overview of finishes. Drawer box construction. Could spend an hour on drawer box construction. Lots to talk about. The good news is a good quality drawer box, pretty inexpensive these days. So lots of manufacturers are using them.
Yeah.
Solid wood, dovetailed, plywood bottoms, 1/4-inch bottoms. You used to get really, really cheap ones, but today the wood ones are pretty low cost. So I think more and more people are just including them. However, watch out we like a plywood bottom in our drawers, right, Dennis?
Yeah.
Watch out for a furniture board drawer bottom. You don't want to do furniture board 1/4-inch thick, or you want a nice plywood bottom.
Yeah.
Side mount versus undermount glides. I can't remember the last time I saw a side mount in a cabinet. The undermount glides are full extension, much more popular these days. There are some things you can do with drawer boxes that are fun and interesting. Metal drawer boxes are much more popular. They are pretty awesome. Super high quality glides on a metal drawer box. If you want a real pretty one, you got a walnut drawer box. That's gorgeous. I'm not sure I would spend the money on a walnut drawer box, considering that it's closed 85% of the time.
Yeah. I liked the one on the top right because it was the metal drawer, but with the walnut inserts.
Insert.
Yeah.
Oh, right here.
Yeah, so it's like the best of both worlds.
That's kind of cool. Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, but you can get very, very fancy and spend a lot of money on your drawer boxes, especially when you start going custom. But even some of our semi-custom lines are offering several levels of drawer box, if that's something that interests you. Shelves. Big one that I think gets overlooked is, in general, your lower cost cabinet companies will do this half depth shelf.
Yeah.
Your better ones are doing these full depth shelves. I do actually have some clients who prefer the half depth shelf though.
Yeah.
The nice thing though is if you have a full depth shelf, it's pretty easy to take that shelf out, cut it, and put it back in. You got a half depth shelf. If you start with a half depth, it's a little more challenging to make that a full depth. So
You don't have a wood stretcher?
a wood stretcher. Yeah. Well, those wood stretchers cost so much, man. I gotta, might as well just buy a different.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And many times the half depth shelf, which it looks like here, it's not adjustable in height. It's
Right.
mortised into the side, and you got what you got.
Yeah, it's almost it's like it reinforces the cabinet, but not adjustable. We have clients who like them because you can put tall stuff in the front.
Right.
You've got a small shelf in the back to stick other stuff. But these days, more and more people are realizing, but to get to that stuff, I got to get down on my hands and knees and crawl into the cabinet. Nobody wants to do that anymore. So, the full depth shelves are definitely more popular. There's your undermount glide and your side mount. Again, I rarely see side mount except maybe in closet furniture. In kitchens, any kind of decent cabinetry, we're seeing the undermounts are
Yeah.
done.
This is a great picture with those undermounts. See those little purple, dark gray colored handles there? That for people often wonder, well, how do I get the box out of there if I want? You just grab a hold of it and pull those and lift the drawer right off.
Yeah, there's just two little releases and they pop the drawer right off. Yeah. we wanted to, give a quick mention to floating shelves, which are crazy popular now. I actually don't have, in my kitchen, I only have one upper cabinet in my kitchen. The rest of my kitchen is floating shelves. I dig it. It makes the space feel more open. Now I have a walk-in pantry, so I don't need the storage that, of the upper shelving. So you're definitely sacrificing shelving, but floating shelves are a great addition to any kitchen in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Brianna? You've been kind of quiet this time.
Yeah, no, you guys have been covering it all.
I think Brianna feels weird sitting right next to me. She's usually on another computer.
Yeah.
But we couldn't, for some reason, we couldn't get her camera working this time.
But yeah, I love floating shelves. I think they're great. They're like a great way to display, like your pretty pieces in the kitchen or the things that you're grabbing every day.
Yeah. My one piece of advice for people with floating shelves or who want floating shelves, if you put stuff on floating shelves that you use every day, whether it's your sugar or your coffee or flour or whatever it is, they're low maintenance. They don't get dusty. They're great. If you're putting in floating shelves, you put stuff on them that you never touch and you rarely use, it's a bit of a maintenance issue. Now you got to take all that stuff off the shelf once or twice a week and clean it and put it back.
Yeah.
So that's the way I like to think about floating shelves. Easy access, get used a lot. If I'm going to display something, I would prefer to put it in a glass cabinet so that it doesn't get dusty. And I'm lazy. I don't have to do all that extra work. But, all right. Well, Dennis, that's our presentation on choosing quality cabinets. Again, could talk about this forever and ever. I'm sure we didn't even scratch the surface of your knowledge on the topic, but I appreciate your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you. I think it comes down to, especially if you're walking into a showroom, find somebody that you're comfortable dealing with. And, if you're comfortable, that probably means that you trust them.
That's right.
And, ask them all the questions. And, if they don't know, that doesn't necessarily mean there's anything wrong. But if they don't know, they hopefully will be willing to go and find out.
Right.
And get you the answers.
You can always print out this presentation and bring it with you.
Yeah. Well, we will be, if people aren't aware, we're taking every presentation and we're posting it to our website and not the transcript necessarily, but some notes about what was discussed. And we're sending that out to everybody who attends the webinar. So you can always go back there and reference. But I 100% agree with Dennis. You don't have to know any of this stuff if you're working with people you trust. But, sometimes we like to DIY or we like to order online.
Yeah.
Like to look for ways to save money. So having this knowledge is, definitely useful. But if you're working with a quality showroom, your bases are probably covered.
Yeah. And look for the warranty from the cabinet manufacturer and how long have they been around? If they just started 3 years ago and they give a lifetime warranty, well, that's not very proven yet.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, don't be the guinea pig for the new guys. And an interesting thing about cabinets is one of the, few things. It seems like most manufacturers, the ones that we like anyway, and the ones our friends seem to like, are all made in America.
Yeah.
A lot of things we can import are high quality, obviously, but for some reason, and a lot of American manufacturing has gone overseas, but for some reason, cabinets are one of those things that we've still been able to build here. So that's kind of good too.
Well, I think part of that is because the better quality cabinets are assembled, in the shop where they're building the pieces. And as you said about when people get a whole kitchen kitchen where the cabinets delivered, it's going to fill up their garage. Well, that's the same way, whether it's coming over by ship or by airplane or whatever, it gets expensive.
Yeah, that's a good point. You need a lot more. You're basically shipping a bunch of air.
Yeah.
If you're shipping cabinets that are all assembled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we're ordering our cabinets, as we're putting it into the online ordering system, as soon as we put in the cabinet, it tells us how many cubic feet that cabinet takes up, and then that's how the shipping charges are figured.
Right, it's based on space.
And then they know how. All right, I got 6 kitchens that got to go to Pennsylvania next week, but based on the cubes, they're not all going to fit in the truck.
Right. Yeah, that's a real good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we hope everyone enjoyed. Feel free to shoot us any questions. If you are up in Pennsylvania or the Northeast, Dennis Gehman, Gehman Remodeling, he's the guy to call. And obviously we're down here in Tallahassee, Florida. But Dennis, thanks again, man. And I guess I'm going to see you tomorrow. So I'll just
Yeah, look forward to that.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Dennis.
Dennis.
Thanks, Paul and Brianna.
thanks, man.
Yep.